something to say. We want to prevent that too many people will speak parallelly. So everybody will be able to ask questions. Just please do it in the chat box or make some kind of a sign on your video that you want to speak.
I really send it to you here.
From Facebook.
Yeah, do it on Facebook. This is, no, look. Take this.
Okay.
Send it to yourself. Perfect.
We have a big crowd.
We do have a nice crowd. Hello, Judith Ginsburg. Waving. I like the fact that waving has come back. Hi. Also, people look like they may have fallen asleep during the thing. You wave for them, or they blink. You know, it's good. Gibber Ballant, very good to see you. Wonderful to have you.
Thank you very much, Michael.
Maybe I'll take Agnon out and it'll make me feel, oh no, that wasn't good. I don't know. Should we start? Or wait a minute? Marcel?
Yeah, I suggest we wait a minute. There are still like 5 attendees who are getting in, including Madeline Galliard, Victoria. So let's wait until they are.
Well, it's always good to talk about the weather. And today in Budapest, it looks like it's almost about to rain for the first time in weeks. It's kind of like blessed that the sun isn't so shining. So, and it is quite wonderful to have a worldwide conversation. You know, like it's a positive feature of this virus, is that we now get to see each other around the world. And don't be fooled by some of them. Zsuzsa is actually in Vienna.
Yes.
And maybe we'll have someone from Australia, but you know, still, whatever it is. Oh, there's Annie. She's from Australia. But she's in Budapest. Oh, here's Lynn Galler. Very nice. Hi, Lynn Galler. Very nice to say hello to people. In Victoria. And Steve Rotter.
Steve Rutter, it's nice to see you.
Hey, Michael and Victoria, I have my video on, but I don't have pictures of anyone.
We don't see you either, Lynn.
We see you, I see you.
He's on. Hezzy's here too.
Yeah, no, we hear you and we see you.
No, I know, but I don't see you and I don't see anyone else.
Put on
Do it again. Just hit the start again.
Okay,
and
I'll start again.
Make sure you use the audio.
Yeah, I'm on audio and I'm on.
The audio we can hear. Hi, Steve Silverman. How are you?
Hello. Good morning.
Good morning.
Hi, Steve Silverman.
Hello. Lovely to see you all.
I'm going to get off and come back.
And Lela from Milano.
Hello. Hi, Michael. Hi, everyone.
Hi.
Good morning. Okay, so I think we can start. Welcome, everyone. My name is Marcel. I work for JCC Budapest. Many of you do not know me. Some of you do. We are very happy to have this event today with Rabbi Michael Paley, dear friend to a lot of us, and partner, and JCC directors from Krakow, Budapest, and Warsaw, Zsuzsa, Jonathan, and Agata. And we are very happy to have this opportunity to share with you Jewish reawakening and challenges of Jewish reawakening in Central Europe, and how this actually affected this current crisis, JCCs, and what we are doing. So I'm going to give the floor to Rabbi Michael Paley, who is going to lead this roundtable discussion. I just would like to repeat that in case you have questions or if you want to say something or comment, we would suggest that either you raise your hand or the chat box that you have something to say. We want to prevent that too many people will speak parallelly, but you are invited to ask questions, and Michael will make sure.
Well, use the chat box, because I can only see a selection of you at a time.
But if you write in the chat, then we will all see. So I suggest the easiest is if you have something, a comment or a question, then you write in the chat box. So I'm going to mute myself and I give the floor to Michael and the JCC directors.
Question. Was Adam Freeman able to get in? He was having trouble.
He was having troubles. Okay, I will write to Adam and see what I can do. Thank you for letting me know.
Yeah, he couldn't get into the Zoom meeting and the telephone
Okay,
ID.
I will reach out to him. Thanks for letting me know.
Wait, hi,
Well, I'm
Harry.
very happy. Yeah. I'm very happy to be here. First of all, it is my living room, so I'm happy to be here all the time. I used to love to teach, but the most happy thing for me was when I could teach close, like on 67th Street, not too long a walk. It was very nice, just get there and then go back. I'm Michael Paley, and I'm the director of the Tarbut Fellowship in both Poland and Hungary, which are the two countries that these JCCs are from. And I work for the JDC as the senior scholar, or some other title that they made up for me so that I would feel comfortable and at home. And I'm really just happy for me just to see Agata and Zsuzsa and Jonathan on the same screen. I just love that. I love these three people. I don't just love them. I think I've really, given a good try to be with it. And I just think it's wonderful that, I hate this virus and I'm going crazy with it, to be honest, but there are some good things, and the new conversations between the JCCs of Budapest and Warsaw and Krakow is certainly one of them. They're all very different JCCs, but they just have, I always feel so much in common, and I actually feel welcome and at home in all three of those places. So I want to welcome everybody to do what I think is really an amazing moment, and in my own dreams, the beginning of a movement, the Central European JCC movement, or something like that, which I at least feel over many years the world really needs. Anybody that goes into any of these three JCCs can feel the really alive atmosphere there. You can feel it on just a few highlights, the night before and the moment after the Ride for the Living in Krakow, the Latka Homentashe debate in the Temple Synagogue for sure, the Sunday brunch in Warsaw, which is something that everybody could look forward to. Kuba's food in general in Warsaw, I think, is something to really savor and think about. Seeing all the faces of so many different generations there, Dancing with Special Children and the Shalom Choir in Budapest, and the final song being sung by someone on this screen at the street festival in Budapest. All these things warm your heart. So I want to welcome everybody, but in particular Jonathan Ornstein from Krakow, Zsuzsa Fritz from Budapest, and Agata Rajakowska in what? Rawiecka. Agata, my good friend Agata, in Warsaw. And ask you some questions. Maybe I'll start with Jonathan. Just tell me how you are, how the JCC is during this time of the virus, and also what changes do you think will be in the post-virus world? And then I'll ask Agata and Zsuzsa.
Thank you, Michael. I'm very well. First, I want to say Agata Rakowiecka. So we at least we hear her name correctly, or at least
Rakowiecka.
My version of Polish.
Perfect.
At least once. Thank you. So we get that. I'm very well. It's great to be here with everybody. It's always particularly nice to convene meeting of my peers. It's a little complicated for us because I think that you get a lot of credit, Michael, for not that you discovered Central Europe, but Central Europe is not really a known thing, I think, very much in the world. And people in the US can often think that Eastern Europe is the same as Central Europe. And I think just the idea of understanding that we're not quite the East and we're not quite the West is an important distinction to be drawn. And that there's really, in some ways, as much difference in our communities from Eastern Europe as there is from Western Europe, which is not historically the way, certainly, that American Jews have looked at this part of the world. So that I think that's important, even just the terminology that we're using here to acknowledge the Central European aspect of what we're doing. how are we doing? I guess as well as can be expected. We, like most of the world, have moved a lot of our programming online. We, certain things that do not translate to moving online, like taking care of our Holocaust survivors. And we have over 50 Holocaust survivors that we're taking care of here every day in Krakow. So we've had to figure out how to do that, be able to take care of people that aren't necessarily computer savvy and need certain help with food and medicine and things like that, which we've been able to do. So that's been a big challenge for us. Poland is starting to open up. We're, I think, dealt with the virus at an early stage, very much like Israel. So closed the borders, closed a lot of things. So now we're starting slowly to open up, which we'll see how that goes. So we're trying to figure out how to open a preschool and how 3-year-old kids can practice social distancing in our building, which we have no idea how to figure that out, but we're working on that to try to understand that. And the post-corona world for us will in some ways, the challenge will be making sure that our community comes back, that people didn't just drift away, and people, especially when all 3 of our communities are very often talking about people that do not have strong historically Jewish backgrounds. People find out they're Jewish, they get involved. Our 3 organizations are some of the primary vehicles that help those people relearn and reconnect and become Jewish once again. And I guess the fear is, as this goes on longer and longer, that it's kind of easier for people who don't have such a strong Jewish background to sort of fade away after that. So that's one concern, although that's not really a major one. Of course, funding for all of us is in the Jewish world is we're in a very different landscape post-corona, especially organizations like ours that are dependent on foreign donation. I think as there's greater local need coming in the United States, then I think that it'll be a new landscape for us to try to make sure that we're able to continue to grow and build our communities and provide the services that we've been providing based on the economic model that we had, which I think will change very much as we move forward post-corona.
Agata.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for organizing this. And as it was said, it's, there are some positive elements of this crazy, crazy situation. What I can really share is that it's already been, about 2 months. And it feels a little bit more, I don't know, that we kind of got into a new rhythm. The first few weeks were really very, very difficult on many, many different levels, mainly psychologically. We were all asking ourselves a question, how to adjust ourselves to this new situation. What's happening? Is this, are we going to be on hold with everything that we do? And there was a lot of uncertainty. And I can't say that there is a lot of things that are certain today, because there's a lot of question marks for the future. But the last few weeks were, like, from my personal perspective, kind of a test. We're talking about, the rebirth of Jewish life in Poland, that it's been already about 30 years, which is a lot for a person's lifetime, but in terms of community and history, it's really, really a short moment. And we're putting all these efforts and investing in a community, in letting people have connection with their Jewish roots and give meaning to what it means to be Jewish. And it feels like moments like this, when suddenly everything changes and we're in shock and we have to react and there are new needs, is kind of a test. Are we doing a good job? Are we a community really? And what does it mean? And I'm really, really uplifted with what's been happening. And I mean, especially the fact that there is so much readiness among members of the community to be there for each other. We had so many messages and telephones of people saying, how can I help? I'm ready. If anyone needs any help, like, I'm there. Actually, we have more volunteers and people that are offering than those that need support at this moment, which doesn't mean that there are not people touched by this situation, especially economically. There's a lot of people in the community that has already lost their jobs. There's a lot of people that are freelancers and have their businesses closed. So this is something that for the future will be definitely a big challenge. But the sense of togetherness is really extraordinary. And also the readiness to run different programs. So we put a lot of our regular programs online, but there are new things happening that are offered by the members. We bake halot every Shabbat, and every time it's a different member of the community. And another positive aspect is that for this time, we no longer have to face the issue of too little space, which is a thing for us in Warsaw. We don't have to even think about how many people we can fit. We can actually connect to community members who are not physically in Warsaw. We have people joining from other cities, from other countries. So the sense of togetherness and the sense that all these years of building community have proven to be the right direction. So, it feels very uncertain, but also hopeful.
And Zsuzsa?
Yeah. Well, first of all, it's really wonderful to see so many of our friends and supporters here online, and I'm really grateful for all of your help and support and for being here as well. So what's it like? So now that I thought it over, I think our first reaction was like fight or flight. So really incredibly very fast, we put ourselves online as much as possible. I think it was an automatic reaction, really. It wasn't thought through. I remember the first 2 weeks after the lockdown, it was all adrenaline to do something, to react to the situation. And I think now we started to be conscious, and it's difficult because I think community center is first and foremost a physical space where people come in and enjoy being there and enjoy the touch of others and enjoy the closeness, as one of the seniors phrased it to me a couple of days ago, that it's great to have all these possibilities online, but she really misses coming into the JCC and seeing all the people and spending there a lot of time and just chatting. So that's our main core as JCCs. And still, I think one of the main missions is to connect people and to create a safe space. And I'm really proud of my team because we managed to do that through our online tools. And not just that, I think that we are all already learning from this situation, learning about things that we can do after the pandemic is over, that we have never thought about because we were not in this situation. We try to connect as much as we can to our members and be there and have a continuous connection to all the different age groups and all the different little clubs and groups that we have in the JCC. And there are some really touching stories about the gymnastics for the seniors that we put online, and through the Zoom, one of our seniors and her sister who lives in Australia could also join and be together for the first time in the gymnastics. We managed to actually involve a lot more community members. We do these candle lightings for Shabbat, and we have every week somebody else from the community, a family or an individual, say a couple words and light the candles. So it's really refreshing in certain ways. And of course, it's really difficult because we're out of our comfort zone in other ways. One of the added values of all this situation is that we started to connect to all the people who come to the JCC to lead programs and our partners who actually live in the JCC during the week. And we make meetings for them regularly. And turns out in the conversation that they actually never meet. So this was the first time, this is the first time that they actually meet online, virtually. And that creates new connections within the constituents of the JCC. And the other one is definitely what Agata said, is the cooperation with the community, because we realize that we need to reach out and connect to the other organizations to be able to really centralize and see what are the needs and how we can react to those needs. So we are now part of a big community framework in Hungary, which is a community platform that supports and looks for support for the people who need it. And we're also in contact with our members once a week, asking them to tell us what they need and what we can do to help them in this situation. So we're hanging in there. I think it's the 6th or 7th week, and I think that the quarantine tiredness is reaching us as well. But we're hanging in there.
I appreciate. Thank you for all of your answers. You know, I think about the JCCs as the engines for this Jewish reawakening. Many people, you know, think in the world that Central Europe is of the past, and the JCCs have really put Central Europe P and Jewry in the future. I'm just kind of interested to know what your vision for the role of the JCCs is in that reawakening, and what kind of a position that they should play in it. Kind of what's your vision? Maybe we'll start with Agata and then Jonathan and Juju.
Thank you for this question. Well, it's a main question that really drives us the whole time, and I believe it's really, really important to re-ask this question constantly. But for a long time already, the main answer that I could give, and that is proving to be really the direction, is I believe a JCC can be an enabler for the community, really the place that enables the community members and different groups reach for Judaism and Jewish presence that is relevant to them. There is so much division in the world, in the Jewish world as well, and so many different definitions of what it means to be Jewish, how to act Jewishly, and it's actually the beauty of it. I remember, you know, when I was fresh in this and I was just starting my journey, I was pretty frustrated with the fact that there's so many differences. It's so difficult to come to one answer. And along the way, I really understood that there's a power in it, the variety of answers, and we are the ones that have the opportunity to give space for all these answers and to find the common J in it, because there are things that we all have in common regardless of how we define being Jewish. And I see already this shift, it's happening where, let's say in the beginning of it, and I see the future, in the future we will develop it more and more, that a JCC really is a platform for different grassroots groups to express their Jewishness in the ways that they see fit, meaning giving the voice of the community as it is, rather than thinking of a model how to be Jewish. And the JCCs have the unique opportunity to fit all these differences.
Jonathan? Also, are you just around Krakow, or are you also moving out beyond to the countrysides?
So we are generally focused on Krakow and the area and the surrounding area. So it's the south of Poland. So we extend a little bit outside of Krakow. There's no other JCC here. So it's in between. Agata and I have drawn a line through the middle of Poland, and Agata is the top half, and we're the lower half. So we have we have our own.
So we have the sea, you have the mountains.
We have Slovakia to protect us from Poland.
Yeah. So we do try to get out. You know, it's we're mindful, and especially in Poland, you know, Agata and I are very mindful that the situation for Jews in Warsaw and in Krakow, or even in other cities like Wrocław, is not the normal situation for Jews in smaller places. So we have, I think, a particular responsibility when possible to try to reach out and go a little bit beyond our cities. So we do try to do that, and I know that the JCC in Warsaw does as well.
And the reawakening?
The reawakening, yeah. I mean, I got to 100% agree. We're the JCC is a platform. The JCC is an enabler. I think the JCC is a portal, and the JCC is also a teacher. We, in some ways, have a different role than JCCs or equivalent organizations in the U.S. Just because so many people, especially for us in Krakow, I think Warsaw, we always feel the community is a little bit more advanced. In other words, what we're going through in Krakow are things that I think Warsaw went through a few years earlier. So we still, you know, in terms of discovery, that it's happening more in Krakow, that Warsaw has had a kind of a more developed Jewish community for a while, and in Krakow we're at a bit of an earlier stage. So we're a teacher as well. There are people, we're still bringing people in who have no idea what it means to be Jewish, who have known their whole life that they have a Jewish parent or a Jewish grandparent and have no idea that that makes them Jewish. So really very fundamental aspects of things that we're trying to teach and to get people on board. I think what's also interesting is the symbolism of what we're doing. You know, think of this idea of Jewish life being reborn in Poland and in Hungary and these places that were so deeply scarred by the Holocaust. And throughout our history, you know, the Jewish people really is, you know, our story is one of overcoming adversity. And this idea of overcoming adversity for us in the Holocaust narrative has been Holocaust survivors that have been able to pick up their lives somewhere else, US, Israel, Australia, and rebuild their lives. And now we're actually telling a different story. And the JCCs are really, as you said, the engine of that story, which is these communities that themselves were decimated by the Holocaust, actually something that we never realized until recently actually might have a future and can rejoin the Jewish world. So the JCCs are an important engine of that, which is important not only for the Jews that we're serving in the community, but also I think for the symbolism. What does it say to the Jewish people that Jewish life can thrive once again in these places that our JCCs are serving?
I do understand that that if Jewish life can survive in Central Europe, then it does give hope and even strength for people around the world, Jews around the world, that we can overcome all of these setbacks. And I think I learned that from Jonathan, so I appreciate it. Zsuzsa, of course, you come from the largest of all Jewish communities in Central Europe and really outside of France and England in Europe in general, the biggest city. So how, in this reawakening, what do you think the role of the JCC is?
I think it's three things that involves a lot of other things. It's to connect, to create, and to catalyze. I think that we are connecting. We are connecting groups, generations, initiatives, communities to communities. And it is important to connect also in Hungary, which is really a big Jewish community with a lot of different initiatives and organizations. And we are in the hub of the community. So we have our little thingies that go out and connect and know where to put those threads and bring people together and closer together. We're connecting generations, definitely, since we have basically from 0 up to 100 in the JCC. And this is something very rare, more and more rare if you think about it, in the whole world. Generations get further and further away, and not talking about also the corona actually caused the same thing, that we got further away from the seniors, and grandchildren were divided, but it also happened naturally in a way. And I do think that a community is a community of all ages, and it's important to connect and create meaningful connections and relationships. I think it's also important to connect globally. and to show exactly what Jonathan said about the local communities in Central and Eastern Europe, that they are there and they're thriving and they have a presence. So that's also connection, and not talking about this connection actually that it came about from from just an email that I sent to Agatha and Jonathan and said, how about we talk in these times and see where we are and what we do and how we're all handling the situation. So you don't need this situation actually. It brought it out, but you don't need it. You should be able to connect also in more regular times. I think one of our major tasks is to create a community that is a community of the present, building on the roots of the past and seeing a future and a vision for the future. Create Jewish programming, create communities and a larger, more self-sustaining community, and to catalyze processes which bring the people who are right now more on the edge of the Jewish community, or even further away from it, to closer to their community, closer to their roots, closer to Jewish learning and Jewish holiday experiences and Jewish community experiences. I think that's the major task in front of us. The Hungarian Jewish community is really a long-standing community, and it's really the largest in Central and Eastern Europe, and it's been here for generations. So I always say that I do believe that this community has a future, and I do believe that this community has a lot to add to the global Jewish community because of its experiences, because of its glorious past, and we are here to create that bridge between the generations before the Holocaust and now.
Maybe I'll just keep on that topic with Zsuzsa and then Agatha and Jonathan. The JDC, the Joint Distribution Committee, where I happily work, has supported these JCCs and invested in them over many years, and also in the narrative of the communities, and the stories of the communities. And what I really want to know is, what do you think Jewish means in these places, and what special aspect of Jewish life does it have to contribute to the rest of the world? It is a true two-way street, but I think that the Jewish community of Budapest and Krakow and Warsaw certainly have a tremendous amount to contribute. So I'm interested to hear what you think that is.
I think for most of the Jews in Hungary, Jewish means belonging, a certain way of belonging, and a shared memory of a past. And many times it means black and white things. And I think one of the major tasks ahead of us, which you are a very important part of, by the way, is to show how colorful Judaism is. And I think that the JCCs are always at the forefront of creating innovative programs and showing the members of the Jewish communities that it's actually a palette where you choose from, and being Jewish can mean so many different things. And here you are, and choose from all these options, but choose one, and go beyond go beyond the biological and the genetic, and go beyond the notions of even your parents and grandparents, and experiment with what it means to be Jewish for you, and find meaning and find your own Jewish journey. And I do think that Jewish means a lot of different things, and I do think that why people sometimes are afraid to choose is because they lack the knowledge, because of historical reasons, because they did not grow up with Judaism. They didn't grow up even knowing that they were Jewish sometimes. And once they start learning slowly about what it means and what it can add, and what's the added value of being of this part of this community, a community that has been learning for thousands of years, then they will be able more comfortable to choose their own journey and will want to be part of this community because they will feel more confident in their Jewish roots.
Yeah, maybe this is what we understand to be peoplehood. But it's a relatively new idea. We didn't usually have peoplehood as the central meaning of being Jewish. Jonathan, what do you think about this?
I think I agree with you that the JCC has been instrumental, and really that there's been a lot of international philanthropy that's allowed us to do what we're doing. World Jewish Relief, the Toby Foundation, Nash Foundation, Goldrich Foundation. There are, I know, some people joining us, and it's worth noting that through their efforts and their generosity, we've been able to build what our organizations have been able to build here in Central Europe.
I also want to say thank you to them.
I think for me, the most interesting aspect, and this is really based on feedback, we have so many visitors that come through our JCC. You know, we're about 130, 140,000 visitors a year that come through and have meals with us and connect to our community. And I think the thing that they get from it, the main thing is just the energy that inspires them. The idea of being around these people that were denied their Jewish identity, right? Because of the Holocaust, just the history here, because of the Holocaust, and then because of 50 years of communism, this idea that Judaism was a gift that was denied these people. And suddenly these young people have been given a gift, and they see Judaism not through the tired eyes that many of us see it, that it's something that, sure, we're Jewish and we go to Jewish camp and we go to synagogue and this, and it's kind of something that just doesn't really move us. But when people come and they get to have a chance to experience Judaism, through the eyes of these people that have been denied access to Judaism, I think it reawakens the Judaism, really the spirit of Judaism in a lot of people. And people leave here and then they get back home and they write us these letters and they let us know how they see their own Jewish identity has been refreshed, and they just see everything very differently after the experience of spending time with these people that grew up without being Jewish. And it's something that, I get this energy, and, it's unlike Zsuzsa and Agata, I'm not lucky enough to be from Central Europe. I had to, like you, Michael, come here from New York, from the US. And I can tell you that I see my Jewish identity completely differently, having spent all this time here and being around these people, and how Judaism is such a gift for them.
And one more word on that. What does it feel like to be someone from America, and also you spent 17 years in Israel? What does it feel like to be living in Poland?
I'm not that old. We're going to get in trouble with the math. 8 years in Israel, and then
8 years in Israel. Okay, 17 years in America.
What does it feel to be here in Central Europe?
Yeah, as an American in this position in the Jewish community.
Well, I should mention that I am also a Polish citizen, so I wanna be clear about that.
And I think that Jonathan was in the Israeli army. You're certainly a stateless person. Now, answer the question.
I feel very connected to Poland, especially to Krakow. I think on a material level, things have gotten much easier here. It's easier to live here. 18 years ago, it wasn't that easy to be a foreigner. Foreigner being Jewish here, you felt really like a fish out of water. I think from the moment I got to Krakow 17 years ago, I've been shocked by how welcoming and accepting the city is, especially toward everything Jewish. And I think it's a very easy place to be Jewish. But I never felt as aware of my Jewish identity as I did until I came here to a place that there really aren't many Jews, and you become more aware. So in some sense, I'm very aware of being Jewish. But at the same time, I think it's easier, and I don't think Judaism is as appreciated as it is here anywhere else that I've ever been.
That's fascinating. Agata, what do you think about what it means to be Jewish in Central Europe, the narrative, the story, and what does it mean to you?
Well, I just want to add my deepest thanks to all the supporters. Some of them has joined this meeting. I really think, that it's pretty amazing to have people believing in the concept of rebirth of Jewish life somewhere out there. And it gives really the feeling of deep peoplehood, like deep connection, that we're in it together. So like we wouldn't do it without you. And when it comes to what it means to be Jewish, well, you can write books about it and never get to the final conclusion. But in Poland, in my reality, the biggest word that comes up is choice. It's really a conscious choice. You need to put an effort to be Jewish and to give meaning. And all the things that Zsuzsa and Jonathan said, they resonate very much, meaning education, what Zsuzsa mentioned, being really the door, the road that leads you to starting to answer some of the questions, meaning like first you need to know certain things. You need to know about Judaism in order to wonder, where do you place yourself? So here I see also a big role of our institutions into this knowledge. And then it's really, really a choice. You wonder, what do you want to give to your children? How do you want this community to look like? And also this sense of being in charge, meaning that it's not this concept that I get either closer or maybe not close enough, but it's really of taking the responsibility of how do I define it and what do I make out of it. Yeah.
If I can add to
please.
that,
Of course.
I think that resonates with me very, very much. Also, not just in the sense of Judaism, but I think that the whole idea of you getting involved in building your own community. I think that's what we want to do with the JCCs, and that's what we want to show, that you don't need somebody from up above, because all of our communities, mostly because of the communist regime, are still sometimes expecting a higher force to tell them what to do. And it comes down, it rolls down also to the level of the Jewish community. And we want to show that you can make the community you want, not just choose your own Jewish journey, but also build your own community and put in your effort and energy and money. And this is a very long and slow learning process for all of us. Many of the people here who are from the United States, you know what it means to build a community with your own sense and with your own work, but our communities just started learning that, what it means. And I think there's a new generation already who wants to build their own Jewish identity and who wants to build their own community, and they want to find meaning in what they are doing as Jews.
I guess the next question I want to ask, and people are welcome to write in questions, and I'll.
We did get questions. I just wanted to point out that everybody's feel free to pose questions in the chat box below. And there was one request, if you can maybe a little bit elaborate on special programs or anything you had to change regarding this current crisis and how it influenced the works of the JCCs.
Well, I think maybe we'll get to that, and let me ask one more thing, which is about optimism. I just kind of am interested in, I do feel that this has been a real heavy lift for the 30 years. Not everybody's been around for all 30 of them, but since the fall of communism and the rebirth of things, are you optimistic about the future? Do you feel like that the direction is strong? Do you feel like the World Jewish communities will continue to support you, and do you feel like you can get give return to them? Maybe I'll ask Agata, and then.
Thank you. Immediately when you ask this question, like what popped into my head is that I'm quite pessimistic about the future of the world in general. I have to say, like, there's so much bad things going on around, and it's very difficult, like, not to relate to it. But at the same time, I'm very optimistic when it comes to local initiatives, groups of people, particular communities, and I believe that this is really the only way to fight the bad tendencies that are out there, is to be together and to build the right platforms for ourselves, our close ones, our communities. So I'm in general pessimistic, but when it comes to the future of the Jewish community and of our communities, I'm very optimistic at the same time. And I feel the big responsibility and the chance that being part of a community gives to each individual to survive, basically. It's not even, you know, to develop and to learn and to be the best version of yourself, but it's actually a matter of survival.
Jonathan?
Being Jewish means being an optimist. I'm very much optimistic. I think all of us on this call, I mean, just this idea that we're discussing the future of, you know, how the future of Central European Jewry, this is something that wasn't supposed to exist. And I think that the older you are, perhaps the more miraculous this seems. But I mean, to me, and maybe having the perspective of coming from the outside to Poland, I think that the rebirth of Jewish life here is a miracle, maybe not state of Israel, you know, level, which is, you know, the modern day miracle for our times, but really something approaching that. This is, if you think of, you know, after the Holocaust and communism, how communities not only managed to continue maintaining some sort of Jewish life, but continue to build. And not only that, that our communities, if you talk to Jewish communal leaders all across Europe, I think the most optimistic ones are the ones in this part of the world, Central and Eastern Europe. And
that's right.
That to me is absolutely remarkable. So if I were betting on future Jewish communities, which I don't think you can do yet in Las Vegas, then I'm incredibly bullish and optimistic in this part of the world, really because of the energy of the young people that that are finding out they're Jewish and that they're not leaving en masse. You know, we're not talking about massive emigration from our communities. These people are finding out they're Jewish, they're learning what it means to be Jewish, and they want to stay and live in Jewish communities in the country that they were born, in this part of the world.
Shuzha?
How can you not be optimistic? Sorry.
Yes, well, I do myself feel like I live surrounded by miracles. One of the reasons I wanted to live here is because of that. I feel I sometimes feel teary once or twice a day because of the enormous inspiration of it. And Zsuzsa, who inspires me constantly, let me ask you.
I think, Jonathan, you haven't met much of members of my community when you say that Jews are optimistic.
But Hungary has earned the right to be a little pessimistic. Let's be honest.
I'm a Hungarian Jew, so I know what I'm talking about.
Don't even ask, my dear. So I think, first of all, yes, I think that there is worry because of the situation. I mean, economically, for a lot of people already, it's a very risky period. At the same time, JCC Budapest Bálint House is going through a very significant change these times, which is our road to independence and eventually a more self-sustaining situation. So we are actually in just now in these months talking to members of the local community and finding people who want to be part of this change and be part of stakeholders in the JCC's
governance structure
and governance. And we find amazing enthusiasm, which is a great feeling. Because there are people already who expressed their openness also to be part and financially support the JCC. Of course, we will have to see in the future, but I think that one of the keys is really to see that members of the community also will take part in the future of the community center, and through the community center, the Jewish community of Hungary. So I'm also optimistic. I'm one of those Jews in Hungary who is optimistic. I inherited that from my grandfather, who was the greatest optimist in the world. Like no matter who led the country, he would always love the leader of the country, no matter what. And I don't know what he would say now, but in those times that was when he was alive, that was the case. So I am optimistic. And I'm really hoping, because I think that the time has come that we take care of these hubs of Jewish future, no matter where they are around the globe, that we take care that there is a Jewish future, especially because I think that for many of the secular members of my community, there needs to be a place where they feel that that's where they feel at home, and that's what we want to give them, and that's what we also want to create through the circle of people from the local community who will not just advise us strategically, but really take part in the whole mechanism of the running and operation of the JCC.
I appreciate all of your answers, and they're wonderful to be with you. I do want to ask a question, which has come up now from a number of people here, which is it's kind of a two-part question. The first part is sustainability. Do you think that this effort is sustainable, and the role of anti-Semitism in that? You mentioned that people, I think Jonathan mentioned that people want to stay, and maybe I got to also mention, maybe all three of you mentioned it, and I understand why. But look, is this sustainable as a community, and does the role of anti-Semitism factor into it? So maybe I'll ask Jonathan to start with that.
Anti-Semitism is a problem everywhere in the world. I think it's a question of what degree. Here, I don't think, here in Poland, I don't think it's the main issue for us. We're much more concerned about, financial issues of the community and getting, the size of the community. You need to reach a certain critical mass to actually have a community. You can have Jews living in a place. It doesn't really mean that you have a community. Community implies a certain, certain level, certain infrastructure. And I think that's really the concern for us. So we do worry about anti-Semitism, but I think we worry about anti-Semitism a lot less than most Jews worry about anti-Semitism. And when I'm walking down the street here, and if I'm wearing a kippah or with people that are wearing a kippah, we're not looking over our shoulders. And our building, does have security now, but didn't have security for the first 9.5 years that it was open. Only since we opened the preschool do we have, full-time security here. So while it is an issue, it's not something that will really, I think, determine the future of this community. Is not necessarily right now be dependent on some increase in anti-Semitism that we feel, because we don't. There are certainly issues with the far right here, nationalism, like other places, but we don't, on a daily basis, I don't think that's a major threat for us right now. Of course, it could change, but the caveat with all of this is that any of this can change and the world changes. But as of now, certainly in Krakow, we don't feel that anti-Semitism is a main problem for us.
And in the north of Poland, but really the center of Poland?
Right. So I have to say that this topic comes up in the conversations with the community members, and very often, unfortunately, recently, I hear more and more comments such as, well, in this time that it feels more dangerous than it used to, it's so important that we're together. It's so important that we have the JCC, and it's going to be even more important. And this is an aspect that a few years ago really wasn't there. At least for me, growing up here and being a member of the community, not only serving as a director, but being a Polish Jew living in Warsaw, it felt like it's an issue that is debated somewhere there. The issue of anti-Semitism and how it influences our lives. It felt like it's a history and it's a concern of someone else. That on daily basis we don't feel it, and the reasons for people to join the JCC, to join the programs, would be to develop their knowledge, to engage in something that is interesting, and then recently more and more the need is out there just to be together, because together we're stronger. So there is definitely the feeling of less security, but it paradoxically reinforces the connections between people. and nobody's leaving, as Jonathan said, and people are actually more consciously thinking, okay, so how do we organize and make sure that we are strong enough? But the concern is out there. And when it comes to sustainability, we're not even, like, we're going to be in the process, just like Zsuzsa mentioned, of transferring into an independent institution. For now, the JCC Warsaw is a program run by JDC, and we're very carefully getting ready for this process. And I believe that really the fundamental issue for this process to be successful is, again, education and connection, and the really aware connection of the members of the community in the structures. And we have some successes there. When it comes to financial responsibility, also we've made some steps, but I believe it's, it's gonna come in the future, and this is the goal that we're working for, that one day we will be self-sustainable, not only when it comes to the idea how to be Jewish and what kind of community do we want for ourselves, but also in terms of how do we make it sustainable and survive. So this is a process that we're in, but I'm hopeful.
Zsuzsa, it's also anti-Semitism, and maybe even in Western Europe where you sit. And also, is it sustainable?
No, the Austrians.
You have 2 minutes. You have 2 minutes.
The Austrians are not allowed to be anti-Semitic. They really are. They're very. They have a lot of issues with it. So
they have a lot of explaining to do, by the way.
I could talk a lot about my husband's jokes about the Austrians. Anyway, so anti-Semitism in Hungary. I think that. You know what? When we did a survey about the JCC to see what the members miss or lack a few years back, and what they most appreciate about the JCC, one of the major answers that came back from most of the people was that they feel this is a safe place where they can come and feel safe. And then we talked a lot about it, and I do think that it is not about anti-Semitism, that anti-Semitism in Hungary is mostly a political anti-Semitism. It's a narrative. It's not in your everyday. It's just a feeling that you have when you go on certain online newspapers or hear certain politicians talk. So it's mostly about people, when they say that they feel that the JCC is a safe place, they mean that this is where they know that the people who will come there will be like them, will think like them. Even the non-Jews who come to the JCC will be the people who they want to be together with, because they know that mostly, in most of the things that happen, these are the people that they agree with, that they can have a conversation with them without having this fear that they're going to say something that will shrink your stomach into a small piece. And I think the other thing that the JCC does with that is that we are the most open Jewish institution in Budapest in certain ways. Our communication, we reach out really to about 20,000 people on Facebook, and we teach through different online materials and contents. And I think that that's the tool against any kind of anti-Semitism, is education through all the generations. And our message is that our doors are open wide. Come in and see what we do and see what Jews do. And so very rarely actually do we experience any kind of attack even online, or any kind of anti-Semitic remark, because we're open, and we use a lot of humor, and that's what anti-Semites cannot deal with, really. So it's also kind of like a communication tool, the JCC, towards the larger society, I think, and we take that role on, I think, quite happily and confidently.
Well, I want to thank each of you for the answers to those questions. And I want to just say a few more things. I think that the JCCs are really leaders. And they both teach the community and they also pay attention to what the community needs in a way that is really life-sustaining and powerful. And in a place where no one thought Judaism would grow and flourish, I feel, I spend a lot of time in these 3 JCCs, I feel Judaism is gathering, and not just gathering the people in the local community, but people across the world. When I hear the 140,000 people come to the JCC in Krakow, and I don't know how many, but thousands and thousands in Warsaw and in Budapest, you have to feel that the next Jews, not these Jews only, but the next Jews, will build a future based on the optimism of this place. I also want to thank Zsuzsa and Agata and Jonathan for the incredibly hard work that they do, right? That's the number one thing, to both cultivate the people, to gather the community, to take care of the building, and to raise the money, and to do all those things, and to even deal with the international Jewish community and organizations. It takes a lot of hard work. And it takes a lot of support from each of you out there. And the shocking and amazing and miraculous thing is so much support has come. So much good feeling and good work and good good standing behind us. If you want to do something amazing, anyone on this call, please come to Budapest or Poland and come to one of these JCCs on almost any day, and you will see something really ambitious, visionary, and restorative. And so for that, I appreciate all of you, and I want to thank everybody for being part of this conversation. So thank you. I turn it back to Marcel.
Thank you very much. And if any of you listeners who have still questions that were not answered or wants to say, please drop me an email. I just sent it to the chat box, and I will help you to connect with any of these directors, and they will be very happy, I think, to give you responses that were not possible today because we have only 1 hour. But I also like to thank you for being here. Even though the time is always limited. But if there is interest, we will continue. And yes, Jonathan also shared his email address. We will be here, so you can still see the email addresses if you stay online. So thank you very much, everyone, and have a nice.
Thank you, Rabbi Michael Paley, for the.
Thank you so much.
Thank you to all my.
And for
thank you, Judith. Nice to wave to Judith Ginsburg.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Nice to wave to everybody like that. You know, I would say that this is the night of, this is the day in the Sfirat Omer, in the counting in the Omer, which is Netzach and Netzach, eternity and eternity. And if nothing in the world convinces you of the eternity of the Jewish people as much as this conversation. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Stay safe, everybody.
Oh, Frank Hagelberg. Hey, I am here.